Take it over now to our interview with Chris Marler, Saturday Down South. Always an entertaining interview. All right, hey, we're pleased to once again be joined by a friend of the show, Chris Marler. You know him from Saturday Down South, college football uncensored. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, good, man. Good. Just living out what I thought would be a childhood nightmare of Georgia winning back-to-back national champions or championships. No, man, like this has been a great bowl season. It's been awesome. I feel like I'm really trying to ride this wave of happiness because I know that on Tuesday I'm going to turn on the TV and there's going to be some bullshit, way too early top 25 I'm going to disagree with, and then we're just going to only talk about basketball for the next like 2 months, and I'm going to be dead inside.
Well, thankfully, not on this show. Damn it, Chris. We're not going to talk basketball. We may talk about it one day during the SEC tournament. We're SEC football, but I got to
Love it.
ask you this. I got to start with this. You're a big Alabama guy. Are you fearful that Alabama will never catch up to Georgia's dynasty?
So I honestly, I think it's a really good point. I always love when people. I grew up a Bama fan, but like this is crazy thing that you can do as an adult. You can do it as a child too, but a lot of times as an adult, it's just called having rational, objective opinions. And since I love college football, like and I always have, and yeah, I love when Bama does really well, but like I also like love talking about all these different teams. I think like when you look at these two teams objectively, yeah, I think Kirby has distanced himself from Saban in a pretty quick way. And I did a deep dive on this a while back, and I called and bombarded you with it about just the amount of talent that Saban was signing that was leaving. Because when you talk about like, sure, maybe some of these guys didn't play or whatever, but you talk about like the stars and the rankings. Bama lost their top player in their recruiting class in like two of the like last 4 years. In this deep dive I did, and you compare it to Kirby. I think that like obviously Saban's the best coach of all time. I don't think the sky is necessarily falling. You have the two losses by 4 points, whatever. Love what they did in the bowl game, but Bryce Young is not walking back through that door. The fact that you've had to replace Jalen Hurts with Tua, with Mac, with Bryce Young. I mean, you're a Tennessee guy. That's like replacing Peyton with Peyton with Peyton with Peyton. It's like they're obviously not as good as Peyton Manning. But you know what I'm saying? It's like that's there has to be some natural level of drop off. And I think what worries me when you really look at it, like because we joked around with Georgia fans forever, right? About 41 years in 1980 and Kirby, that fake punt, like all these bad decisions. Well, now he's like figured out the coaching part of it. He's amassed more talent than anybody, and he's 46 years old. So now we're just sitting in this like just like this process where he just has everything working like clockwork. Yeah, I think that he's going to win a lot of championships. I really do, because I think he's separated himself from everyone, including Nick Saban.
You realize there are 1-year-olds, Chris, that have never seen Alabama beat Tennessee. So
Well, in
stew on
China,
that.
they would probably be put to sleep. So there's that. Like that's probably.
Now, you put out a deep dive on Stetson Bennett the other day. I thought you did a
Yeah.
fantastic job. If
Thank
anybody's
you.
not seen it, I've retweeted it. It's on Marler's Twitter as well as on Saturday Down South. Can you kind of recap the highlights of Stetson Bennett on your deep dive heading into the national championship game?
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I think it's like the stuff with Stetson is so crazy because he's like so polarizing for no reason. Like and now we've all heard the stories at nauseam about, he's a walk on, he did this. And what's really comical about it, and I think you would agree, is this kid came in and he was the scapegoat for every loss. Everything that went wrong with that program for 2 straight years, every bad, like he lost to Bama twice, he lost to Florida, like really bad numbers in those games. And as soon as JT Daniels came in, like Stetson Bennett was the scapegoat for every loss they had. And even going into 2021, there was a lot of that fan base that was, like the hate for Stetson Bennett will never be as strong as it was from his own fan base for a lot of his career. And I'm glad that they've like finally come around and all that kind of stuff. But what's happened here is because since he's 5'10", since he's kind of looks like Screech Powers and he's a walk on, and he's got a lot of tape early on in his career of like, like throwing interceptions in big moments or this and that. But the bottom line is like after that SEC championship game against Alabama, when he threw two interceptions, including a pick six, and they lost, they go to the college football playoff. And from that moment forward, what stood out to me the most was even in the national championship when it seemed like, oh my God, like Bama just got a fumble that they're leading in the fourth, maybe they're going to win. Kirby didn't put the ball in anyone else's hands. He put it right in Stetson Bennett's hands, and they went right down the field, four for four for 82 yards, and leads the game winning drive. And since then, he has been incredible to watch against ranked teams in the playoff alone. Like the fourth quarter, what the whole deep dive is about is he might be the most clutch fourth quarter quarterback that we've seen in college football during the playoff era. And I know that sounds crazy because of Joe Burrow and guys like that, but I mean his numbers are incredible. And last week against Ohio State, you're down by double digits. He's pretty mediocre in the second and third quarter, and like threw an interception, 33% completion, goes 10 to 12 in the fourth quarter, 2 scoring drives, and they win. And it's like this kid, they're not winning because of the talent around him. He is driving this entire thing, and it's really impressive to watch. So I think for me, I love to like kill lazy narratives, and I think there might not be a lazier one in the country than Stetson Bennett is just like not a lot of talent.
Right. He's Rudy with rings, as I like to call him.
I say he's Tom Brady with a perm. That's what I said.
Did you see after the game, Kirby Smart said they had a lot of doubters? What do you make of that?
I was happy he said that because that was now we're even for the Bryce Young comment at a Heisman ceremony last year when he was talking about how no one ever thought he could make it, and he was like the number 2 overall recruit. I don't know who was doubting him at all. I don't think any of us were doubting him last year going into the season until that game in Atlanta. But then, the bottom line is Kirby's just been that thing has been a machine. It was interesting to watch because I was there because Georgia fans haven't seen that or been in that situation in quite some time where it was like, oh God, like this is, I mean, you remember 98, like the Arkansas game, right? Like this is this generational team that you can win a national championship. And it's so hard to get to the mountaintop. And like all of a sudden we're having one bad game and it could just go to waste. That game was incredible. I think that Kirby did a great job of coaching with the timeout, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't think they have any doubters. They can play the Jets right now. And
so who's winning on Monday? Do you think Georgia? Any chance TCU pulls off the stunner?
I feel like that was a Stone Cold Steve Austin reference. That was good. I think that we've all dismissed and like disrespect Tennessee or TCU for like most of the season, right? Like the committee was like just refusing to move them up. They're like, yeah, they won, but that game was competitive because they scored points and the other team scored points. I didn't think they'd beat Michigan. They're 5-1 against ranked opponents. The thing for me that I don't see what they do or what they have that is going to stop Georgia for one. And also be able to consistently put up points and keep up with them with that defense. There's not one specific thing that, I can point to where I'm like, oh, here's where they have an advantage. And that's the case for a lot of teams that play Georgia. But with TCU, man, I don't think Max Duggan is going to just ball out against the defense he's about to face. They've been really good and they've been consistent about winning, but they've also had they've been behind 5 times at the halftime. They've come back and won. I don't think like it would take. Well, I was gonna say it would take like multiple turnovers, but like we saw this a week ago, and I think it was the most impressive thing about Georgia was you have 2 missed field goals. You have that weird play call from Munkin on second goal from the 3 to McConkey. You have an interception from Stetson. You did all that. And Ohio State played like their best possible game, and you still beat them. So I just don't see what TCU is going to be able to do or how many mistakes Georgia would have to make for them to be in that game.
What are your thoughts on old Bobby riding his motorcycle down there to Texas A&M? I mean, does it make him a more dangerous team, or is this going to be the death nail in the Jimbo's coffin down there?
Well, if anybody's going to be a death nail, it'll be DJ Durkin for sure. I don't think that this is what makes them dangerous. It's any off-field antics. I mean, like I think Bobby Petrino's a great offensive mind. He's obviously still got it. Like, they put up a lot of points everywhere he's been. I think it's a good move from that. It's hilarious to me that this guy, like, he's like a 16-year-old, like trying to find a summer job. He's just like, I don't want to work at Brewster's anymore. I don't want to scoop ice cream. I'm going to go over here now. But no, I think it's a good hire. I don't believe at all that Jimbo Fisher is going to give up play calling. because I think he's too egotistical. And I think that he's making a hire to save face to pretend like he's doing the right thing. But you think he's going to give that up?
I think by hiring Bobby Petrino, he signaled that he will, because Bobby Petrino is not going to sit on his damn hands during the game. You know what?
I mean, I think Bobby Trino's probably happy to be back a little bit. And like, I'm sure he's going to be heavily involved. And I hope he is the play caller because it'd be a lot more fun to watch than the shit that Jimbo's rolled out there over the past like couple of years. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I tell you what, that game against LSU at the end of the season may have been like the worst thing that could have happened to them going in the offseason. Because now Jimbo's like, told y'all, still got it. But yeah, we'll see, man. It's just I will say this too. I thought the Bryce Young like finale was really awesome, and them opting in. There may not have been a more impressive postseason, like a more uplifting and like confidence like riddled going into the offseason moment than the Orange Bowl with Joe Milton. He was fantastic.
Yeah, he was. I mean, of course, you should have expected nothing less.
That's why I don't fucking give you confidence. Just try to be nice to you, and then.
Well, let me ask you this: who do you got more confidence in? And I'm speaking specifically of next season, yeah. Alabama or LSU. Alabama, I get it; they're going to be loaded, but who knows? I mean, both coordinators could be gone potentially, and all the star power they were losing to the NFL draft. LSU did beat them. It was in Baton Rouge, of course, but who do you got more confidence in right now, LSU or Alabama?
Well, let me start by saying that is the sixth time LSU has beaten Alabama in Baton Rouge since 1955. So huge win. By 1 point into overtime. It was fantastic to watch. I like it was an amazing win, and they outplayed Bama again for the second straight year. And just this time with Brian Kelly instead of Coach O. I think Brian Kelly's a great coach. I think that Jaden Daniels is so much better than I thought he would be. I don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be yet for Alabama. But I would say the whole sky is falling thing about like the coordinators, like Bama was ranked in the top 10 in several defensive categories, and they got absolutely cooked at Tennessee. But luckily Jalen Hyatt doesn't play for every other team. Otherwise I would have jumped off a bridge a long time ago. But like, I don't think that I think it was a great win. I don't think that LSU, I think it's a great confidence booster, and they're going to have a lot of confidence winning next season. That's a team that got dominated at home by y'all. That's a team that like looks pretty bad at times, and in a shootout with Florida at one point this season. Like I don't think that LSU, since they beat Bama for the second time in the last 11 years by a combined 6 points, I'm not convinced that they're going to all of a sudden take their place.
All right, same question in the East though. Kentucky or Florida? Kentucky's remade the offense pretty quickly with the transfer portal. Billy Napier just kind of went through essentially a year zero. It was like a wasted year with a potential NFL quarterback. Who you got more confidence in next season, Kentucky or Florida?
I don't even want to answer that question because I don't. I really that's such a crap situation with Napier in Florida, because I really don't know what they have coming back because of all the turnover. I will say this though, depending on what that offensive line looks like next year. Do you remember I came on this podcast and said in September, I think my exact words were like, Kentucky's kind of shitty. And I got a lot of pushback from that. And it turns out they weren't kind of shitty. They were just real shitty. They weren't a good football team. And I think that like we've seen Stoops be able to have like such, up and down success where the highs are they're higher than they've been in the program forever. I don't know if he has built from a recruiting standpoint, like the big blue wall. I think that's huge. I just, Florida's going to be able to get more talent every single time, right? And I think that depending on what Kentucky is able to do with offense, like on the offense with Cohen, that might be the biggest pick of the offseason. If they can get back to that 2021 offense, I would definitely say Kentucky. But they have a lot of holes, man. And Calipari ain't done nothing with all that talent.
How about this? It's been a rivalry in the past. I think it's a rivalry once again, and they haven't even played. Ole Miss or Auburn? Who you got more confidence in next season? The Lane Train's back, but it seems like half the fan base, he lost about half of them already. And then, of course, we got Reverend Hugh down there on the plains.
What's wild is that this, like, 2022 Lane Kiffin did his best 2021 Brian Harsin possible. I I don't know about off the field, but we can make speculations. You never know. Lane's a attractive single dude, but like he closed out horribly. And what I don't understand this day and age is like I think maybe it's Jimmy Sexton or what, but like the strong arming of like programs like where it's like, no, you're gonna have to come woo me. We saw Jimbo do it at Florida State. Like you need to make me feel like you want me here. Because otherwise we're crazy enough at this day and age, like and money's not real in the SEC, where it's like, they'll hire me. And Auburn would have. Like I have more faith in Lane Kiffin because I think that the turnaround he was able to have in Ole Miss that quickly, with the 10-win season going to Sugar Bowl, that doesn't happen a lot in Oxford. He has so much production coming back on offense. The defense will be whatever the defense is. Maybe if he doesn't go for every fourth down, in the first quarter, like maybe this is not the first quarter. I think that would be a good improvement. I think Auburn's going to get better under Hugh Freeze, and it's great. But it has been hilarious to watch, and I had a lot of respect for Auburn all year. I went down there for the first time ever, had a blast. But Auburn fans talking shit to Ole Miss during their bowl game for losing their bowl game, and then pretending like, yeah, we got the right guy. It's like you were dead set on him after you were telling everyone you were going to get Deion Sanders, and then after you were saying you were getting, I don't even remember who the other one was. And it was like just the level of like delusion and hilarity because this is the SEC. I hope we have that every offseason.
Now, a final one of those: Arkansas or Mississippi State. Sam Pittman, a little disappointing. Obviously, we got a coaching turnover due to tragedy at Mississippi State, but yeah. I like what Zach Arnett's doing, and it looks like both these programs are kind of battling it out for Kendall Browse, so that could obviously change the narrative here. But who you got more confidence in next season? Arkansas, which has got a ton of guys in the portal, or Mississippi State after a coaching change?
I think Arkansas. I think it's just what Mississippi State went through. It's just really tough to deal with in general. I love the fact that Will Rogers and that, like, I've never wanted officials to fix games, which I know is a shock to you as a Bama guy. But like, if Mississippi State didn't win that game the other day, like it would have been like just a travesty, like because it was so like cool to see all like the pouring out of, like emotion and support for Leach after he passed away. But that is a very difficult thing to like weather that storm, and it's not like Starkville is. I feel like there's always been a ceiling there, even when Leach was there, like even when Bolin was there. The ceiling's been 8 wins, 8-9 wins. Like they rarely get up over that. I want to say they've only had like 5 seasons in all time or something like that. I forgot what it was, like of 9 or more wins.
I think it's 9 seasons of 9 wins.
Okay. So, and it's not like I've always said this. They're kind of like the South Carolina of the West and vice versa. Arkansas can be a really competitive team in this league. Whoever's making the schedule at Arkansas needs to like fucking sit this one out next year. Okay. Like I don't know. Sam Pittman is an angel. Okay. He's a chubby, red-faced angel. And the fact that like he has to like walk in, he's like, all right, well, what are we doing this year? They're like, oh, listen, you're going to love this. Your conference schedule is going to be a nightmare, but to make it worse, your non-conference schedule, we're going to put you up against an old SEC coach who has nothing to lose. And then another old SEC coach that also has nothing to lose. Both of them off the field issues, and they have a great offense. And then you're going to go fly out to play the Mormons in BYU. And you're like, okay, well then what about the postseason? It's like, well, that was just October. I don't get it. I just don't know who's making the schedule for him. KJ Jefferson's back for his 11th year, and he's been fantastic. I think he's this year's Hendon Hooker from not the production, because Hendon Hooker was incredible all season, and honestly last year too. But like just flying under the radar for no reason. It's like we're all oblivious to how great this kid is. And if I hear one more person say he's a running quarterback, I'm going to lose my mind.
It's funny you say chubby, red-faced angel. That's how my mom describes me. But speaking of KJ, so I did want to ask you, who do you think is the best odds to win the Heisman out of the SEC next season? Is it KJ, or will it have to be? Unfortunately, it seems like the way it works, you got to be a damn playoff team to be considered for the Heisman.
It's not KJ. It's a great story, but it's not. I mean, they just won't. I don't see Arkansas I mean, they have to go 11-1, and they have to go 11-1 and like make it to Atlanta too. I don't see that happening with that schedule. And that doesn't mean they're not a great, they're not on, like, on the rise, and Pittman has done a great job. From the SEC, Jaden Daniels is an interesting one just because he's going to have a lot of primetime games, like especially at LSU and also early on against Florida State. That's a big one. I don't think anybody from Bama. I'm sure I'm probably wrong about that. But yeah, I think like just when you look at it, you do have to be like a playoff contending team. So maybe Lane Kiffin somehow goes 11-1, and you have the same kind of numbers he put up this year with Jenkins. Whoever steps in at quarterback next year for Georgia, like, I mean, Stetson made it this year. And I tell you what, man, like, Hendon Hooker should have been a Heisman finalist, and there's no reason that they kept him out of New York at all. I mean, they let anybody up there, even those wet bandits from Home Alone 2. Like, they were allowed to, like, go there. Like Hooker had like this incredible 2 years, and he meant more to that program, I think, than anybody in a long time. If Joe Milton can like, because he's arguably more exciting to watch. Joe Milton is like, he's got a touch of like a Aaron Judge to him, where it's like like he can just do things that no one else can do. And if he puts up, similar numbers, or I think it could be him.
Oh, there's our clip right there. All right, last thing for you. You mentioned South Carolina. Any concern there? I mean, it's was such a roller coaster season. It was disappointing to start. Then they started winning some games. They got ranked. Then they lose to Missouri. They got their ass kicked by Florida. Then they turn around and beat the hell out of Tennessee and Clemson.
Right.
At Clemson. Now they got all these guys hitting the portal. What do you make of what's going on at South Carolina? Any concern, or
Yeah.
is this just par for the course?
Well, it's hard to win at South Carolina because, again, that schedule's tough too. And Beamer's done an incredible job, man. He really has. And them being able to go up and like score in all these different phases of the game, and like really when they seem like they're always shorthanded. I feel bad for South Carolina fans because like my family lives in Columbia. My sister went to school there, and there's like not a fan base that rides the waves like of like the season more like dramatically and invested. I feel like the South Carolina fans, it's like their entire attitude about life and like we can win a national championship. Like, and then the next week it's like we're gonna go 4-8. This is the worst. I don't think it depends on Spencer Rattler.
I was going to ask you, do you think he comes back?
Where would he go?
XFL.
I don't understand why this is even being brought up.
He's got NFL arm.
That does what? Like most of the time it's like,
I'll tell you this, I'd rather have Spencer Rattler than Will Levis. Am I wrong?
Oh, no, I like that pick. I thought you were going to say Stetson Bennett. Like it's not like he's not a bad quarterback, but he just has not. I tell you what, he would really benefit from staying an extra year instead of going out in a class that has C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker, and anyone else that doesn't fumble the ball while running and then somehow pick it up for a 7-yard gain once every 3 games. Like I hope he comes back because I think he would be like a really good, like not addition, but really like important to keep building what Beamer's building. But I don't think he's like a difference maker. Somebody, like, I saw it on Twitter the other day. Somebody said, if he comes back, is he the clear cut Heisman front runner from the SEC? And I was like, what world are we living in right now?
He's been a Heisman candidate 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
All right. So I appreciate you, Chris. Before you go, tell the audience where to follow you, where to find all your work.
Vern Funquist on Twitter and Instagram. The podcast is called College Football Uncensored. We're not as structured or organized as you, and we don't have the same cute red cheeks. My mom doesn't tell me that, but like, we have a lot of fun over there, and we always have a blast talking to you, man. This has been a lot of fun this season. You did a great job. It was really fun to watch you grow this thing in year 2.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.